Tanvir, as the Honorable Prime Minister has mentioned in two speeches recently, the fact that reforms are something that is extremely important for India to step into this century, and that the old laws cannot actually help us, in growing the economy. He's also mentioned that these farm laws are actually intended to benefit the small farmer. It is important to understand, the political economy of reforms in a democracy like India. It usually pits a vocal minority of the kind that you're seeing, vis-a-vis a silent majority. The silent majority is the one that benefits from reforms, be it the 1991 reform or the ones that have happened after that, while the vocal minority is the one that usually benefits from status quo continuing. And just in terms of numbers, for a population of 1.4 billion people, 45% of them being farmers, that we're talking about actually, a few hundred million people. So there's a small percentage, which is basically the vocal minority that they represent, who are opposing and trying to maintain status quo. But I think, we have to actually recognize the beneficial economics of these reforms, and that is what the government is doing.
I think there's no disputing the fact, sir, that the Indian agricultural sector needs reforms and path-breaking reforms, Mr. Subramanian. I think the worry is really about whether India is ready to implement these reforms at this stage, at a time when food is largely a state subject in India, and we've seen how states have been able to exercise tremendous influence on food supply chains, essentially.
Tanvir, I think it's important to understand here that food actually is also, center is also involved, majorly in it, especially through the minimum support prices, the public distribution system, the Food Security Act that the central government had enacted in the earlier UPA regime. So, there is no denying the fact that the central government, is a big player in this agriculture sector. And I think, as I've already made it very clear, that there will be reforms. Whenever there are reforms, there are opposition. For instance, in the 1991 reforms, I recall a lot of stakeholders that wanted to continue the status quo. Shouting Swadeshi, for instance. And reforms did bring their benefits. So I think that's what we have to remember. The experience, where India has indeed benefited. There has been opposition like this earlier as well, but when we stayed the path, we have really benefited from it.